Warning. You've reached On the Box with Ray Comfort and are now in a biblical truth zone. Place all questions about theology, current events, and evangelism on the box, where they'll be weighed against the truth of God's Word. Ready your hearts and minds. You're about to be inspired and equipped to fulfill the Great Commission. Programming to engage in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Welcome to another exciting edition of On the Box with Ray Comfort. And if you're confused as to who Ray Comfort is, it's the tall one with the beard. Why do you put padding on your seat, Ray, to make
so I can be up your height?
Me?
I've had books there when we've had guests.
Right. Before you know it, you'll be 9 feet and your head will be out of the picture.
I want to see them eye to eye.
Oh, friends, it's great to have you back. And you know what? It feels as if though it were just Monday, a week ago from today. How weird is that? It was, friends.
Yeah.
What a blessing to have you back. We have Mark Spence sitting at the dean's desk. How are you today, Mark?
I'm feeling a little groovy. I need to go get a haircut.
Oh, yeah.
I'm going to do that right after the show.
That's pretty long for you,
It
Mark.
is. It's really long. You should see my back hair.
Oh, no.
no.
Too much information. I just got to say
Monday,
something.
Mark. People don't need to hear that early
On
Monday.
Sunday night, we're at the ministry and because we had to do some things with our computers. And I checked out Mark's Facebook page, and I was so impressed with him. I tell you, oh, it blew me away. He's got a list of things that he's done. And I found things I didn't even know about. I thought I knew Mark. He's written a book that's sold well, and someone else got the credit for. He's memorized the whole New Testament. And I was thinking, Mark, you're such an incredible guy. And right at the bottom of this huge list is, 2 of the things on this list aren't true. Do you know what they are?
It's hard to tell with Mark sometimes. I didn't take the guy
I think
seriously.
you hit it with Weasel.
Oh, that's right. Weasel. Friends, it's great to have you back with us. And speaking of Facebook, we're extremely excited not only about what God is doing with Facebook, and if you haven't connected with us on Facebook, please be sure to do that. But we just found out that actually what's happening on our YouTube page in terms of the number of subscribers is a good thing. 45,000 subscribers on our YouTube page. And if you haven't subscribed yet, make sure to do it. That's encouraging, isn't it, Ray?
How many views?
I think we're up to about 17 million almost, Alan. Close to 17 million views. So very exciting.
Amazing.
Make sure to connect with us on there, especially for you who have been viewing for a long time. All right, we're going to jump right into the topic of the day. This is right out of CBS News. Iceland seeks to ban pornography. And for any of you parents who may be watching, by the way, this may be a good time, if you so choose, maybe to have your children go out of the room. The government of tiny North Atlantic nation is drafting plans to ban pornography.
Oh, it's Iceland.
Drifting.
It's a great big iceberg.
How fitting was that? Drifting from the ways of the world. Is drafting plans to ban pornography in print and online in an attempt to protect children from a tide of violent sexual imagery. The proposal by Interior Minister Umungur... I should have worked on that one.
Yeah.
Johansson has caused an uproar. Opponents say the move will censor the web, encouraging authoritarian regimes and undermine Iceland's reputation as a Scandinavian bastion of free speech. Advocates say it is a sensible measure that will shelter children from serious harm. So, Ray, this is news for the world. It's never been done. No one has ever banned pornography in any nation in terms of the internet. And this is looked on by some as ridiculous and preposterous. But what do you think when you hear about this?
I haven't even
I
idea.
can't.
It's like the dam has burst, and they couldn't say, how can we get the water back in the dam? But yeah, I think it's a good thing. Do any countries ban child pornography?
Every country.
Well, what's with the
think of.
censorship business? They should let everything go. It's hypocrisy as far as they've got a standard of ethics. It's very, very low, but it is there. It won't last for too long, but it is there, and it's just the height of hypocrisy.
Right.
But God bless Iceland for their cool stand.
Yeah. Well, Iceland actually has taken some stands. You know, it's a small country.
It's the only time I've ever heard it mentioned in my life.
Iceland?
Yes.
It's not mentioned much, but it's actually, you know, it's a Nordic European country. It's considered a part of Europe, though some people wonder. It's where are you looking, right? You looking over there? It's you know, right up there next to Greenland, which is next to Canada, and it's right there in between.
I've heard
Norway
it said that Iceland was called Iceland to keep people away from it because it's nice and green, and Greenland was called Greenland and it's full of ice.
I always wonder that. You fly over Greenland and it's all, you just see a big block of ice.
Yeah.
But anyhow, it's a small country, 320,000 people, but they actually took a big departure from the ways of Europe in that they banned prostitution and they banned strip clubs. And they actually have a ban on pornography, but it's just not been enforced really. So now they're taking it to the next level. And so it's interesting, and you know, I'll be interested to see what happens.
Yeah.
Mark, what do you think about this?
Yeah, you know, I was reading some comments that people were placing after the article, and people were saying you cannot cause people or force people to do things that they don't want to do. Morality, you can't legislate morality. And it just went on and on and on. People went on to say that, hey, I'm a very moral person. And then they went off with their, I guess, their rap sheet of all the great things that they've done inside their life. You know, it's a little silly to me to think that we, as a culture, it doesn't matter what country you live in, are wrong because we begin to take a stance concerning anything.
Right.
You know, we should be able to do certain things like that. When you grab a hold of the laws of the land, by and large, that are biblically based here inside the United States, and then we begin to change those things and say there's no room for that. Society is changing and evolving. Well, we need to be careful with that, because when you begin to change laws or put laws into effect that are not biblically based, where do you stop? And if it's up to each individual to decide for themselves what is right and wrong, well, then you might as well do away with the laws and the court systems and everything else. Just because you have a select few people that begin to go against and chide against what we adhere to be biblical principles, we cannot bow down to what they have to say. We need to stay strong and stand strong on what we believe. And we have to always argue from a biblical mandate, not from personal issues when it comes to legislature.
Also, with censorship, so many are so against censorship until it comes to censoring creationism being taught in schools. Suddenly
There's
they,
a double standard
yeah,
there.
absolute double
Absolutely,
standard.
yeah.
You know.
But, you know, let me throw this out, and it's good to kind of look at the different perspectives, because you have some Christians that say, we really shouldn't push for this sort of thing, because if we do, then the next step will be for them to censor Christians and censor, you know, religious free speech. Do you find any, you know, validity in that, Ray?
I think Mark could probably have something great to say about that.
Mark, do you have something great to say about that?
And what was the question?
Mark was watching sports on the computer over there. No, but really, Ray, seriously, I mean, people have
I think
that
that's a silly argument. You know, you've got to have laws, and we can't say don't have laws because they might bring laws against Christians.
Right.
That's all there is to it. You've got to have laws. And
Yeah.
I think it's a good law to ban stuff that's, it's not just harmful to kids. That's not the argument. It is wrong, morally wrong.
Right.
In God's eyes, if you look upon a woman to lust after her, you commit adultery with her in your heart. And so God has his standards, and that's the standard we've got to face on Judgment Day. So that's what we should be concerned about.
Yeah.
But the thing is, it's do you remember I put a blanket over a woman's body on a billboard over here?
How could I ever forget
Yeah,
that,
I remember I was driving along with Rachel in the car years ago, and she says, "Don't look at that billboard, Dad. Don't look at it." No, what billboard? Oh, it's terrible. Don't tell a guy not to look at something. You look at it, and it was a lady who was completely naked except for a towel on the back of her buttocks, and it was promoting upcoming Cleopatra ABC thing on television.
Right. She was lying down, right?
Yes,
and
of
there was
course.
a
I'm
towel.
sorry, imagery not right. And anyway, I went to Home Depot, purchased an 18-foot ladder, and got a big orange blanket, and got up there at 6 o'clock in the morning and stapled the blanket over her body. Any gentleman would have done the same thing. And the reason I said I did it, and I sent out a news release to 2,000 outlets, I was hoping ABC would take me to court. Because I wanted, my defense was, I don't want them bringing their stuff in that's going to stir up guys in our area and they're going to rape my daughter or my wife.
Right.
Because of their lusty billboard. But that's not the answer. And the answer with pornography isn't legislation. It really is. That's part of the answer. But the answer is to change the human heart through the gospel.
Amen.
Because before I was a Christian, I lived and breathed lust. Nobody knew about it, but it was my instant pleasure.
Yeah.
You know, and when I became a Christian, God changed my heart, so instead of thirsting after darkness, I thirsted after light. Or instead of hungering after things I knew were wrong, I began to thirst after righteousness, which is a miracle in the heart of a sin-loving sinner to suddenly turn around and want what's right.
Right.
People say, how do you know? Well, I'm still standing, 40 years later, standing with my mouth open at the radical change that God did in an instant.
New creation.
New creation.
Right.
And you experienced, every other Christian's experienced it. And so we understand that the gospel is the power to change the heart.
Amen. Yeah, and let me just read one point of clarification from the article here. It says, Iceland's left-of-center government insists it is not setting out to sweep away racy magazines or censor sex. The ban would define pornography as material with violent or degrading content. So, in essence, they're not talking about a pure.
It's the stuff they like, they want to keep.
Right. There you go. So it's important. It's important that we understand that perspective of what's happening. But Ray, pornography is such a serious issue in our country and in the world, and it's been multiplied. Back when we were kids, I mean, you'd have to go out and try to find a magazine or buy it from a store. But now it's a click away from children's fingertips. And we're seeing the repercussions of that. Let me read just some facts for you. The average age of which a child first sees pornography online is 11. Pornographic websites, 4.2 million. A total of 12% of all websites that exist are pornographic, 44.2 million. Internet pornography sales, 4.9 billion annually.
Yeah.
I mean, it's hard to wrap our minds around, those sorts of figures, but they're staggering. Over $180,000 per minute, which is $3,000 per second, is spent on pornography worldwide. Men who admit to accessing pornography at work, 20%. 20% of men at work, where oftentimes what they look at is logged.
Yeah.
And it's such an insidious stranglehold on their lives that they're even willing to do it at work.
It's like moths to a flame, and there's a lot of dead moths at the bases of flames, and that's exactly what's going to happen. We don't see the full repercussions now, but we will on Judgment Day.
Right.
And that's a fearful thing.
Yeah. So I want you and Mark both to touch on what are ways, for those that are watching today, maybe guys that are struggling with pornography or whatnot, or parents, as you guard your kids, to just give some tips on how men can guard against this. So, Mark, I want to go to you first and get a few tips from you.
Boy, we are inundated with pornographic images all throughout our culture. You don't have to travel very far before you see billboards or commercials, before you see newspapers or magazines at the supermarket.
Right.
You have to safeguard your heart and your eyes. You have to bounce your eyes, as Steve Arterburn likes to share inside of his book. A very powerful thing. But I think the number one thing that we need to have to cultivate the fear of the Lord inside of our lives, to abstain and to run from these sort of things, is accountability.
Right.
We need to have people inside of our lives, friends, perhaps a family member, somebody who's close and dear to you, who you can confide in, who you can run to. If you don't have accountability inside your life, and you're a young male who is tempted in these areas very strongly, well, you're setting yourself up for fail. No man is an island. You begin to isolate yourself. You're seeking after your own desires and pleasures, and you're going to be shot off the fence very quickly, just waiting. It's been said that while you're sleeping, the enemy is planning your demise. He's looking to take you out of the race.
Right.
Now, with that said, I talk to people all the time, guys, who say, you know what, hey, I'm doing really well in this area. How are you doing? I'm doing really well in this area. Specifically, and that's what they think that I'm alluding to. I say, hey, how you doing? They go, well, I'm not giving myself over to these sort of things. I go, look, I'm not even referring to these things, but a lot of times, guys think that they're doing well because they're not doing anything in this area, and all the while they're not doing anything.
Right.
They're not marching forward. They're not sharing their faith. They're not handing out tracts. They're not being faithful to their spouses in other areas, or being great leaders to their kids. We need accountability in all areas of our lives, and then specifically with this, we need to have accountability every week, every day if need be. And I think that would be a great thing to do. You seek after the Lord with others who pursue the Lord out of a pure heart. I think that's what we need.
Right. So, Ray, what tips would you have?
I would say if you're into pornography, take some to church and during worship read it. And you say, I could never do that in the presence of God. Well, you're doing it at home in God's presence. Right. God doesn't present himself in a building we call a church. He's omniscient. He's omnipresent. So if you look at pornography at any time, you don't have the fear of the Lord, because the Bible says you are committing adultery when you look with lust. So it's as serious as committing adultery. So Jesus said, if your eye offends you, pluck it out and cast it from you. And if your eye is causing you offense by looking at pornography, Jesus said it is so serious. He's not saying mutilate your body. He's just bringing what's called hyperbole to explain to us how serious sin is. Better you didn't have an eye that it was plucked out than have an eye that looks at pornography. Better you didn't have a hand that turned the pages of pornography or clicked a mouse so you could look at it. So cultivate the fear of the Lord above all things. Walk in his daily in the knowledge that he is present in everything he does. And if you're tempted to look at pornography, do 50 push-ups, and then if you still feel tempted, do 50 sit-ups, and then another 50 push-ups, and you'll be so exhausted you won't be able to think straight.
Oh, jumping jacks, right?
Yeah, do some jumping jacks too.
Yeah, it's really tragic to see how many men are hindered in their calling as ambassadors of Christ and in preaching the gospel because of dabbling around with that. Even if it's not pornography per se, but lust, which is, like you say, pornography of the heart. Yeah. You want to see yourself liberated and freed, men, in terms of the highest calling that we as human beings have been given, to be representatives of the God of the universe and to preach the everlasting gospel. Cut that stuff off. And, view it as the equivalent of murder. View it as the equivalent of child molestation, which to you are unthinkable. Let it be like that. Cut it off and watch what the Lord will do in your life.
Yeah.
So it is a very serious thing, and we hope that this has encouraged some of you. Pray for Iceland. Pray for America. Pray for the world in regards to this serious epidemic that's destroying people's lives. Excellent. All right, on to the weekend debrief. Ray, how was Huntington?
Oh, Saturday, Huntington Beach was absolutely wonderful. As we're driving there, I just, without telling Scotty, we just burst into prayers, and we're driving. I said, Lord, please give us some good hecklers. And we had them lining up. Yeah, it was great. A little hard to get a crowd at the beginning, as we'll see with a little clip we got. But an interesting thing happened like half an hour before the end. I got a good-sized crowd. Guy in the crowd calls out, how could God have caused evolution or bring about creation? And I said, no way. He says, why not? I said, because Jesus said in the beginning, God made them male and female. In the beginning. Right. And he said, look, he says, I still think he could have used evolution. I said, you a Christian? He said, absolutely. I said, are you born again? Yes, I am. So I just asked one more question. I said, are you having sex with your girlfriend? And his body language just changed. And he says, boom. Yeah, and he said, what's it called when you attack the person rather than the argument?
Ad hominem.
And he says, that's ad hominem. I says, no, it's not. It's a question. Are you having sex with your girlfriend? And he let out the F word at me.
Oh, wow.
And it really shows that if you can marry evolution with God, then you can get moral responsibility, because the God of the Bible isn't the God you have to stand in front of. Yeah. And he's not the one that says, if you look with lust, you commit adultery, etc.
Do you have that guy on video?
No. Scotty missed it, but it would have been a little difficult. It was humiliating for him, and we didn't have his permission.
No mercy, Ray. Just boom, right at him, right there.
Well, I love the guy and care for him, and he's absolutely. And I says, you're deceiving yourself. This is hypocrisy. You're not deceiving God. You're not even deceiving your friends. You're deceiving yourself if you play the hypocrite.
Right. Wow. And, all right. Well, let's take a look at the video from Huntington.
Well, this is today's report. It's a little chilly, down to 60 degrees, which is a bit cool for California, a bit of wind coming off the sea, so it's kind of hard to get a crowd, but Scotty's managed to get one with a little bit of hard work, giving away some dollars, and so these people have come around, and Scott has taken a guy named Dave through the good test.
Have you ever told a lie ever in your life? Yeah. What do you quote someone who tells lies?
There's a couple Siamese twins that are watching.
I don't anyway. Now watch out, because there are kids here, so you want to keep it clean. Liar. A liar. So what does that make you? A liar. A liar.
It's happened again. Scotty has got himself another Mormon. This is the second week. So he's just asked the crowd to come forward. It's difficult when the crowd is scattered. So often we say, please come up to the chalk line. There's a reason for it. A crowd close shows they're interested in it and helps draw more people. So Scotty's just asked them to come up to the chalk line, and some of them were obedient. So this will be interesting. Another Mormon trusting in self-righteousness. Let's see if he gets upset like the guy did last week.
Work, does it? Two of each. What's the name of the raised print that deaf people use? Braille. Braille.
Yeah, hey, dog, I'm not going to, she's shy, isn't he? Hey, little dog, look at that. Hello, little dog. Say hello. Well, thank you. Oh, same here. God bless you too. Yeah, Scotty's crowd is growing a little bit, which is great. He's going to give the Mormon a good test right now, and that should be interesting.
There's something that everybody misses. When my equilibrium is off. There's something that everybody misses, but when we go through it, you'll see what it is. Okay.
Scotty's doing a great job here. It's very difficult with a Mormon that doesn't really hold the crowd because they don't have that much conviction. But Scotty's just told him the God of the Mormonism, or the Savior of Mormonism, is a different Jesus. He said Jesus was a God, and Scotty's just gone through John chapter 1 and said, in the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. And the guy says, I believe that, but he believes that Jesus was a God. And he also believes that Jesus was the brother of Lucifer. Oh, scary. That's very cool. So anyway, good old Scotty. Crowd's a bit thin, but a Mormon's hearing the truth.
Ray, did you actually say squirrel there?
Yes, I did.
Now listen, you always show dogs in these
Oh, I
clips.
love
Why don't you
dogs.
take Sam to bark the gospel to these other dogs down there?
To every creature, absolutely.
Creature, right?
Yes.
Oh, that was great. And were those Siamese twins that we saw in the
Oh,
show?
yes, there were Siamese twins, and
get all
they're
sorts
listening
of them.
together.
That was awesome. Mark, what do we do this Friday night?
Yeah, we went to the Orange Block, or what's commonly known now as the Outlets.
All right.
Boy, there was a large group that had gathered together, and I was really impressed, actually, with Easy, the crowd that he had. I was sitting at a table talking with a couple people, and I look over at Easy, and there was a huge crowd, and I didn't even know Easy was there in the midst of it all. And then I look closely, I go, hey, there's Easy. He's like rapping. I go over there, and he's going through the lie detector test, and then he starts to rap. And I took a little picture right at the beginning. The crowd actually got a lot bigger than that.
Oh, there it is.
Yeah, there's Easy. He's right there in the middle looking to the right.
Yeah.
But they were very attentive. You could see them looking at each other, and then security ends up coming. But
yeah, there were a lot of kids. And, when you get
Yeah.
a crowd that big, I found it so good, especially with youth like that. You know, you preach the gospel in the most creative forms that you can. So, I took the lie detector thing. With
Oh,
the
you did the
magnet.
little one? Yes.
Oh, it was so much fun. Then I started rapping for him and stuff.
You
It was great.
rapped?
Yeah.
Did you rap the gospel?
I did. Yeah, I rapped a bit of my testimony. But immediately, I mean, they were listening. But as soon as I did that, it was like they really were hooked in.
Their eyes went huge?
Oh, yeah. They hooked in.
Oh, that's scary. Sorry,
And then
kids.
they went from, some of the kids went from being silly and kind of, casual to really, you see conviction on them, their heads hanging low. And
Well,
so it
that's
was a
Paul's,
wonderful
I become
time.
all things to all men, that I may any means save some. That's great.
Yeah,
Help-
what's up? Yo.
Dude.
Get you rapping too, Ray.
Well,
All right,
I
friends,
did.
we have for you a great video, and I think this is good in light of the subject that we were talking about earlier, pornography. Many of you, I'm sure, have heard of Joshua Harris, those Christian friends of ours that are watching. He really burst onto the homeschooling scene. He was an author. He wrote the book, I Kissed Dating Goodbye. And this is adapted from that. So let's go ahead and roll it.
In that place between wakefulness and dreams, I found myself in the womb. There were no distinguishing features save for the mysterious array of black cabinets which surrounded me. As I drew near the closest array of cabinets, I discovered one of them to be labeled dating. I was shocked that I recognized the names written on each one. I felt strange as I opened the next drawer to confirm the truth. Suddenly, it hit me that this was some sort of crude filing system for my life. Every detail, every action. I began randomly moving from cabinet to cabinet, opening drawers and searching their contents. The labels ranged from the mundane to the outright weird. Often there were many more files than I expected, sometimes fewer than I had hoped. I was overwhelmed by the sheer volume of the life I had lived. Could it be possible that I had the time in my short life to write each of these thousands, possibly millions of files? But each file confirmed this truth. Each was signed with my signature. I felt a chill run through my body as my curiosity overcame me. Once again, I found myself confronted with the memories of my past. I felt sick to think that such details had been recorded. Suddenly, I felt an animal rage. One thought dominated my mind. No one must ever see these files. No one can see this room. Defeated and utterly helpless, I returned the file to its drawer. And then I saw it. Opening a drawer, I found it to be mostly empty. Then tears filled my eyes. I cried out of shame. No one must ever, ever know of this room. And then I saw him. I watched helplessly as he began to open and read the files. He seemed to intuitively go to the worst ones. Why did he have to read every one? Suddenly he was by my side. He could have said so many things, but he didn't say a word. He just cried with me. Then he returned to the files. Starting on one side of the room, he took out a file and began to cover my name. I shouted for him to stop, rushed up and took the card from him. He doesn't deserve this. But there it was, marked in red, so rich, so dark, so alive. The mark of Jesus covered mine. My name was covered in his blood. He placed his hand on my shoulder and said, "It is finished." And he led me out of the room. There was no lock on its door. There were still files to be written.
Boy, what a powerful video when you begin to look at that and you think what separates Christianity from every other worldview is forgiveness. That God paid the ultimate price so that we wouldn't have to. Now's your opportunity to get down on your knees and cry out to God to have forgiveness on you, and he will do that very thing. Look us up on Facebook and YouTube if you so choose to do so. God bless you. We'll see you tomorrow.
For questions about On the Box with Ray Comfort, or to submit questions for future shows, please email onthebox@livingwaters.com. That's onthebox@livingwaters.com. On the Box with Ray Comfort is an outreach of Living Waters. For more resources to inspire and equip you to fulfill the Great Commission, check out livingwaters.com or call toll-free 1-800-437-1893. Now go and preach the gospel.